firm specific investment. First, before I take that, so what you got in an industry that was a monopoly? One firm, hiring labor, okay, industry specific. Well, in that case, there's nobody else to go to, and so the firm might be willing to, if it was industry specific, the firm would say, well, you know, I might be, well, be willing to pay for those cars, because I'll get the benefit. I'm not going to pay them a higher wage subsequently because I'm the only industry that's involved. Okay? Now, the worker who has industry specific may threaten the firm, you know, to leave, but if the worker can only get W someplace else, the threat, all the firm would have to pay was W plus epsilon, and the threat wouldn't be credible that they would leave under those conditions, right? So in that case, with a with a monopolized industry, the firm would have more incentive to pay for it. The worker may still pay for it, depending upon their confidence in the reputation of the firm that they will pay them their marginal product later on. So the worker might still pay for it. Right? Now we take firm specific. Well, if it's firm specific, and I can't write a long-term contract, then there is a similar problem. If the worker pays for it, how does the worker know that they will then get the higher wage later on? Well, you know, if the firm has a history of paying the higher wages for people getting this training, they have their reputation online, they can attract workers because of that, then the worker may pay for it. On the other hand, the firm may say, well, look, it's tough for the worker to pay for it because of capital constraints. I'll pay for it, but I'll be able to collect the return because they don't have anywhere near equal alternatives by leaving. So you get a bargaining between the two, but it could be you get some sharing of the training costs. And it could be you get underinvestment because of these potential threats. You don't get the optimal investment. That could be as well. Okay, does that answer what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I just say that
Yeah.
if a worker invests in firm specific, his willingness to pay the cost in a firm is lower because...
No question it's lower. No question it's lower. But if he has enough confidence in the firm, he will be willing to do it. You know, firms establish reputations. They're hiring late workers over time. It's a reputational problem of the usual.
He has the risk of that.
I can't yet.
He has the risk of that thing goes down.
Well, he has a risk, yeah. He has a risk that the firm may go under, right? He definitely has that risk. Just like in industry, you have the risk the industry goes under. Maybe the firm can bear that risk better than the worker because the firm can diversify over better, more easily than the worker, right? So that would enter into it. Now we have occupational specific. Well, if the occupation is used in a lot of activities, then that's like general training. And you may not stay within the firm, stay within the industry. The work will tend to have to pay for occupational specific training. So interns don't go paid that much, partly because they're learning skills when they're interning in a hospital they can use in any hospital. Now it also may be because of the monopoly power of the cartel of the hospitals, but that's a partly, and I think there's something to that as well. But even without that, you can see why the workers would get lower wages. They would have to bear a lot of the cost of doing this, because as long as they had mobility across hospitals, which they do. Most doctors who intern at a particular hospital end up generally working at another hospital. They don't stay with the same hospital. So when a university, as they say, attracts an assistant professor to a top university department, let's say economics, Chicago, one said, well, we don't have to pay you. Maybe a not so good university is offering you more, but you're going to learn a lot here, you'll get a better job later on. So you should be taking a lower wage. Right? It doesn't always work. But it should work more than it does work, I think. Because you are investing, and it does make a difference. You spend a year at Harvard, or, I mean, a few years as assistant professor at Harvard or Chicago or Stanford, MIT, you end up usually getting a pretty good position later on, even if you didn't quite make it the place where you started. And it makes a big difference if you started at, let's say, Ohio State, which is a pretty good department, but not one of the top departments. Then, if you don't get tenure there, it's going to be harder. Now, you may not be as good, so you have to sort that problem out. But you do learn more the better department. You learn how to do research, etc. No, not a direct, you can look at, sort of estimate the type of training involved from two different types of statistics. You look at wages, which we discussed, or you can look at turnover. So what you observe in the data is that turnover of workers is very heavy in the first 2 or 3, basically highest in the first 6 months. Turnover of workers from a firm is very heavy early on in their experience at a firm, and is much less later on. And similarly for industry turnover. Somebody said, you may try an industry, you don't like it, you move to another industry. But after a while, you're likely to stay in the same industry. So turnover is relevant. Regardless of who pays for the costs, let's say if you have firm-specific investment, regardless of who's paying for it, the efficient, if you think the outcome is efficient in the labor market, the efficient outcome should be the worker stays with the firm. I mean, other things are saying the firm doesn't go bankrupt and all that. I invest a lot of my training at this firm. Okay, we have some workouts in combination, but by definition, my marginal productivity is higher at this firm than elsewhere. So the equilibrium, if we think the equilibrium is efficient, this firm should stay, the worker should stay at this firm should hold on to this worker. That's the efficient outcome. So, I mean, I've thought the idea of quits and separations, that's the wrong way to think about this problem. I mean, quits and layoffs. It's separations that counts, and you get separation when it's no longer efficient to stay at the same relationship. And the same thing would be true for industry specific. It's more efficient to stay in the same industry, so if the outcome is efficient, you would think in the competitive labor market you would tend to get efficient outcome. You stay in that industry. Unless you're pushed out because the industry goes way down. So that's how you should think about the labor market outcomes. You know, who's going to pay it will affect the shape of the wage profile, no question about it. But you have this other implication about turnover should be very robust. Turnover should be very robust. If I'm not turning over much from a firm, that means it's something firm specific. Not turning over much from industry, it means it's something industry specific. It's not only for labor, it's also for suppliers, and a whole supply chain, including the labor market. The same suppliers are supplying a particular industry mean there must be, let's say they're supplying capital. The capital must be specific to that industry. I'm stamping out automobile body parts. That's the automobile industry, right?